He was the warm smile of children's television for decades, the gentle man in the red jacket who greeted millions every morning. Bob Keeshan, better known as Captain Kangaroo, was a beloved icon. But what we saw on TV was only part of the story. Behind the scenes, Bob Keeshan battled loneliness loss and disillusionment with the very industry that made him a legend. His later years were marked by sadness and silence, until the end. Did you grow up watching Captain Kangaroo? Comment 1 if you did, or 0 if you've only heard about it. Let's uncover the bittersweet truth behind the life of Bob Keeshan, and what truly led to his tragic ending. A brief history and misconceptions. Bob Keeshan was born Robert James Keishon on June 27, 1927, in Lynbrook, a suburban village located on Long Island in the state of New York. Keishon's early life was characterized by the principles of hard labor, education, and civic duty. He was raised in a normal American middle-class household during the challenging years of the Great Depression and the years leading up to World War II. Following that, he relocated to Forest Hills, Queens, a neighborhood in New York City that is well known for its tranquil beauty and leafy streets. He moved there with his family. There, he received his high school education at Forest Hills High School, a prestigious institution that has produced a large number of successful graduates. Keishon received his high school diploma far earlier than expected in 1945 when he was just 17 years old. This was due to the fact that the worldwide struggle was becoming more intense and that young Americans were still being enlisted into the military. Despite the fact that the United States was still in the midst of World War II, Keishon chose to display his feeling of national duty by enrolling in the United States Marine Corps Reserve immediately after graduating from high school. Nevertheless, despite the fact that he was eager to serve, the date of his enrollment guaranteed that he would not be involved in any conflict. The war was now in its closing months, and by the time Keishon had finished his basic training, the Japanese government had already surrendered as a result of the bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. As a consequence of this, he did not leave the country and was never sent further afield. The duration of his service in the military was brief and unremarkable, and he was released with distinction without having participated in any combat in either the Pacific or European theaters of operations. After completing his time in the military, Keishon made use of the group exercise facility. In addition to enrolling at Fordham University, a Jesuit-run private university in the Bronx, New York, Bill participated in a government program that offered educational incentives to veterans who were returning from their service. Early on, he showed a tremendous interest in working with children and making a meaningful contribution to society by pursuing courses in teaching at Fordham University. He was able to demonstrate this enthusiasm. He had been studying for a number of years before he was able to successfully get his bachelor's degree in education in 1951. This degree provided him with the academic basis that would later affect his work in children's television programming. In spite of the fact that Keishon served his country with dignity and discretion throughout World War II, his name grew to be associated with a peculiar and enduring collection of urban legends in the decades that followed the war. Lee Marvin, a tough and grizzled veteran himself, once stated during an appearance on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson that he had served alongside Keishon in the Battle of Iwo Jima, which was one of the bloodiest battles in the Pacific theater of operations. This claim has been one of the most widely circulated and frequently repeated claims. Bob Keeshan's early television career. According to this fictitious narrative, Marvin is said to have lauded Keishon for his bravery and asserted that he was a tough warrior who had rescued lives while fighting on the battlefield. Over the course of time, this account became extensively disseminated around the internet, recited in email chain letters and message boards, and even misquoted in books and articles. It was frequently presented as an uplifting story about a heroic hero who thereafter devoted his life to educating and entertaining youngsters. During the course of its propagation, the myth came to incorporate components that were increasingly imaginative and contradictory. In some versions of the narrative, it was stated that Keishon had not only been there in the Battle of Iwo Jima, but that he had also been awarded the famous Navy Cross, which is considered to be one of the greatest awards for bravery in conflicts. Still others referred to him as a Marine sergeant who had undergone extensive training and had been responsible for the rescue of scores of lives via acts of great courage. Because North Africa was a part of the European front and the United States Marines were not generally stationed there, some people even made the incorrect claim that he had fought in North Africa and destroyed a German tank. This is an obvious untruth considering that North Africa was a part of his territory. It is possible that this particular bit of the tale originated from a misunderstanding with another soldier called Keishon, or from a combat incident from the history of the British military that was misattributed. In actuality, these tales were nothing more than full-blown fabrications. It is true that Lee Marvin was a distinguished veteran of the United States Marine Corps. Nevertheless, he did not contribute to the Battle of Iwo Jima. It was during the Battle of Saipan in 1944 that he had really sustained an injury while serving in the military. He spent a significant portion of the remaining time of the war recuperating from his wounds. Additionally, the reported comment that he made regarding Keishon on The Tonight Show was never ever uttered by him. In addition, Keishon himself never participated in any kind of fighting, as he frequently explained in interviews. Because he joined the military at a late stage in the conflict, he was not able to be sent to any of the overseas battle zones. In Washington, District of Columbia, the Naval Historical Center is aware that they continue to get queries from persons who are looking to validate Keishon's purported military heroism, despite the fact that they have gone on public multiple times to dispel these misconceptions. Even though he made several efforts to rectify the situation, the myth that Bob Keeshan was a Marine warrior continued to exist, much to his dismay. Although Keishon was not a hero on the battlefield, he did make his most significant achievements in the years following the war, notably in the field of television transmission, which was still in its infancy at the time. In the United States, the commencement of the television era coincided with the conclusion of World War II. For the purpose of catering to the varied requirements of an expanding audience, new forms of programming were being produced at the same time that the medium was quickly expanding in popularity and accessibility. Howdy Doody, which made its debut on NBC in 1947, is considered to be one of the first and most significant children's programs of this new period. The program immediately became a cultural sensation by its combination of live-action puppetry narrative and clown antics in order to attract the attention of young viewers. When Keishon was just starting out in the world of television, he received his big break on Howdy Doody. On January 3, 1948, he made his debut as Clarabelle the Clown, a figure who was characterized as an august clown who was silent yet expressive. He quickly became a popular favorite. The only means of communication that Clarabelle utilized were pantomime and the honking of a series of horns that were fastened to his belt. The show's slapstick appeal and visual humor were enhanced by the introduction of a system in which one honk indicated yes and two honks indicated no. In addition to engaging in amusing pranks and jokes, he regularly blasted the presenter of the show, Buffalo Bob Smith, with a bottle of seltzer and engaged in other humorous activities, all while keeping a completely quiet character. As time went on, Keishon and Buffalo Bob Smith's relationship behind the scenes got increasingly difficult, despite the fact that Clarabelle had an enormous amount of popularity. As time went on, Keishon and a few of his fellow cast members started to develop the sentiment that they were entitled to improved working conditions and fair representation. In 1952, Keishon made a decision that represented both the developing conflicts in the program as well as his growing sense of professionalism. He recruited an agent to represent those who were working on the show, including himself and others. Smith was apparently outraged by this choice, which was considered controversial at the time, and it is possible that Keishon was fired from Howdy Doody as a result of this decision. There are some reports that indicate Keishon left of his own willingly, but regardless of the circumstances surrounding his departure, it was the conclusion of his first significant television role. It is important to note that this transformation was only the beginning of Keishon's tremendous impact in the television industry. He would go on to establish and appear in Captain Kangaroo, a gentle and instructive children's program that would continue for over 30 years and gain him enduring recognition and adoration from innumerable fans. This would happen within a few short years of his initial foray into the world of television. On the other hand, his formative years, which were characterized by acts of service myth and the honking of a clown, lay the groundwork for his lifetime commitment to the teaching and entertaining of children. By the 21st of September in 1953, Bob Keeshan had made a dramatic comeback to television. This time he was broadcasting a new children's program called Time for Fun on WABC-TV, which is affiliated with Channel 7 in New York City. In contrast to his prior role as Clarabelle on Howdy Doody, he played a character named Corny the Clown in this show, which marked a significant progression in his acting career. Corny, on the other hand, was a talking figure in contrast to Clarabelle, who was a silent clown. This enabled Keishon to immediately interact with his young audience via the use of soft humor and friendly discourse. The format of the show consisted of a combination of live-action skits, educational interludes, and straightforward storytelling, which resulted in the formation of a more profound connection between Keishon and the children who took part in the program. Time for Fun was one of the first locally produced television shows that was expressly designed to entertain and educate children in a live environment throughout the day. It was shown in the early afternoon, making it one of the earliest programs of its kind. Keishon presented a second show on the same network called Tinker's Workshop later that same year, riding the popularity and momentum of Time for Fun. Tinker's Workshop was originally shown on the same network. It was also noteworthy as this program was aimed at preschool-age children, a group that was not often directly addressed by television at that time. This made the program extremely distinctive. Keishon portrayed the character of Tinker in the film Tinker's Workshop. Tinker was a gentle and grandfather-like person who spent his time in a warm and inviting workshop that was stocked with various toys, tools, and educational materials. With a concentration on peaceful storytelling, fundamental problem-solving, and moral values such as compassion, patience, and creativity. The show had a tone that was soothing and comforting. The calming aura that Tinker's character provided connected powerfully with both young viewers and their parents. Tinker's persona was soft-spoken, wise, and approachable. Keishon, together with his longtime partner and friend Jack Miller, began to envisage a new sort of children's television experience, one that combined education, entertainment, and emotional warmth. This new style of experience would be based on the lessons gained and the favorable audience reaction that Tinker's Workshop received. Captain Kangaroo. A lifelong journey of Bob Keeshan. The concept for Captain Kangaroo. A program that was focused around the reassuring and authoritative character of a kind-hearted older man who welcomed youngsters into his world of stories, music, and fun was developed by them. According to Keishon and Miller's proposal, which was presented at a time when CBS was actively seeking fresh ideas to extend its children's programming roster, the network swiftly approved the concept. Keishon played the part of the eponymous captain in the film Captain Kangaroo, which was released for the first time on October 3, 1955. He was a grandfatherly figure with a mop of gray hair, enormous pockets in his signature kangaroo-style coat, and an unbounded capacity for patience and generosity. The close relationship that exists between grandparents and children, which Keishon believed to be crucial in assisting youngsters in feeling safe, loved, and cherished, served as the inspiration for the character that Keishon once characterized as being her inspiration. The show was an instant hit, resonating with parents, teachers, and most importantly, the children who excitedly tuned in each weekday morning. It was a success from the very beginning. Keishon was the star of the show for close to 30 years, during which time he became a well-known and well-liked household name for many generations of families in the United States. Over the course of its lengthy run, Captain Kangaroo boasted a cast of recurrent characters who were colorful and quirky. Each of them have their own unique, charming qualities. A pleasant, overall-clad farmer who regularly appeared with genuine animals and delivered gentle teachings on nature science and how things worked. Mr. Green Jeans was one of the most adored characters. Hugh Lumpy Branham, a musician and actor, played the role of Mr. Green Jeans via his portrayal of the character. Along with several puppet characters, the show featured Dennis, a bumbling but lovable handyman who was portrayed by Cosmo Allegretti. Other puppet characters included the clever Bunny Rabbit, who was known for his trickery and love of carrots, and the mischievous Mr. Moose, who delighted in setting up jokes that invariably resulted in ping-pong balls falling onto the captain's head. It was the frequent appearance of these characters on the program that added to a sense of familiarity and delight associated with the show. These characters became iconic components of the culture of American children. Alongside his role as the presenter of Captain Kangaroo, Keishon was also responsible for hosting Mr. Mayor, a Saturday morning show that was not as well known but nevertheless important. This show was shown during the television season of 1964 to 1965. Through his participation in this program, he continued his habit of blending lighthearted comedy with morally upstanding teachings by playing the role of the fictitious mayor of a fanciful town. Keishon's commitment to expanding the manner in which he communicated with young audiences was evidenced by the program, despite the fact that it did not reach the same level of durability or cultural effect as Captain Kangaroo. The work that Keishon did with corporate sponsors, in particular the Schwinn Bicycle Company, was an extension of his status as an icon in the world of children's television. During the 1960s, he frequently advertised Schwinn products straight on the air, fervently praising bicycles and urging youngsters to ride safely outside. He also encouraged children to get outside and ride. As a result of the fact that program hosts typically had direct contacts with sponsors, this kind of advertising was frequent during that time period. However, in 1969, the Federal Trade Commission (FTC) announced new guidelines that prohibited hosts of children's shows from explicitly recommending items during their programs. The FTC cited worries about the impact that such recommendations may have on viewers who are easily influenced. An adaptation was made by Keishon and his team in reaction to the verdict. They came up with a new character that they called Mr. Schwinn Dealer. This character was created in 1972 as a means of continuing to promote the brand while adhering to the legal restrictions. In the process of transitioning, Keishon displayed his dedication to ethical broadcasting, as well as his ability to manage the ever-changing norms of the profession. Aside from the camera, Bob Keeshan had a profound and long-lasting connection with Fred Rogers, a pioneer in the field of children's television, who was also the creator and host of the show Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood by the same name. Throughout the years, they have worked together on a number of projects because they have a mutual regard for one another and a similar goal of utilizing television to nurture and inspire children. 1970 was the year that each of them made an appearance on the other's show, where they introduced their individual audiences to the world of the others. Viewers were pleased by this crossover, which also served to promote the notion that programs aimed at youngsters could be both instructive and emotionally satisfying. They made another appearance together in the public broadcasting service PBS Special Springtime with Mr. Rogers in the year 1980. This program was a calm and introspective presentation that honored the miracles and rejuvenation that the spring season brings. Fred Rogers made a brief but sincere cameo in Keishon's television program Good Evening, Captain, which marked his comeback to television the following year after Keishon had suffered a heart attack in 1981. This was the first time that Fred Rogers had appeared on television. Bob Keeshan's career and impact on children's television. At the conclusion of the performance, Rogers, accompanied by Dick Clark, gave Keishon a bouquet of flowers. This was a heartfelt moment that served as a sign of their connection and the affection they both had for one another. In addition to his work in television, Keishon had a remarkable career in audio recordings. He contributed his voice to a great number of children's CDs that were released by record labels such as Columbia Records, Golden Records, and RCA Victor. The majority of these CDs contained songs and stories from Captain Kangaroo, bringing the enchantment of the show into the homes of children, even when the television was turned off. A Child's Introduction to Jazz, which was a project that exposed young listeners to the rhythms and history of jazz music in a way that was both entertaining and approachable, and a narration of Peter and the Wolf, which was led by the renowned Leopold Stokowski, were two of his most praised efforts. Additionally, Keishon narrated Captain Kangaroo Introduces You to the Nutcracker Suite, which contributed to the engagement and memorability of classical music for younger listeners. Keishon's Heart Attack and Heart Surgery. A further consolidation of his role as an educator-entertainer and champion for the development of children via the arts was achieved through the use of these recordings. At Toronto, Pearson International Airport in Canada on July 11, 1981, Bob Keeshan, who was known to generations as Captain Kangaroo, suffered a massive heart attack immediately after disembarking from his flight. It was only a few seconds after his arrival that the event took place, which threw a cloud over what was supposed to be a joyous occasion. A tribute to the influence of Keishon's long and compassionate career, he had come to Toronto to accept a renowned award in celebration of his efforts to children's television and public service. The award was presented to him in acknowledgement of his contributions. The unforeseen medical situation, on the other hand, compelled him to abruptly stop his preparations, which included a scheduled appearance and the upcoming introduction of a reworked version of Captain Kangaroo. The heart attack was so severe that the preparations for the new version of the program had to be postponed until at least the middle of August. During this time, Keishon stayed in the hospital and received immediate medical care. In the days that followed his heart attack, Keishon was hurried into a major medical operation known as triple bypass heart surgery. The purpose of this technique was to treat blocked coronary arteries and to avoid additional cardiac crises. It was both astonishing and very emotional to see the outpouring of love and concern from his admirers when he was recuperating in the hospital. According to reports, Keishon got more than 5,000 get-well cards, letters, and comments from fans all throughout the country. Many of these viewers had grown up watching Captain Kangaroo and now expressed their hopes for his rapid recovery. The notes, which were frequently sent by adults who had been his youthful viewers in the past, pointed to the generational legacy of his work and the heartfelt fondness that so many people had for the guy who wore the captain's coat. Despite the seriousness of his health problem, Keishon went back to work and was recognized for his unshakable dedication to children's programs and received an award for his efforts. It was an incredible accomplishment that indicated both his tenacity and his everlasting appeal that he was awarded 3 Daytime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Performer in a row in the years 1982, 1983, and 1984. His work had been characterized by traits such as thoughtfulness, respect, and nurturing for many years, and these honors acknowledged his remarkable ability to interact with youngsters in a manner that was caring, respectful, and thoughtful. Nevertheless, despite the fact that he was enjoying this professional reputation, his program was experiencing difficulties. Only the first time in 1981, the length of Captain Kangaroo, which had previously been a full hour, was reduced to a format that lasted only 30 minutes. CBS had made a choice regarding its programming, and as a result they needed to reallocate slots in order to accommodate their plan to extend their CBS morning news show. In addition to having its running duration cut down, the show was also moved to a time period that was thought to be less popular. In the beginning, it was shifted to 7 in the morning. It was moved to a time that was even earlier at 6:30 in the morning under the new name Wake Up with the Captain. When the year 1982 first started, the alterations to the schedule proved to be troublesome because a significant number of the show's younger viewers were not yet up at such early hours, which resulted in a decrease in viewership. Then, in the fall of 1982, CBS made the choice to remove Captain Kangaroo from its roster during the weekdays altogether, which meant that it would only be available as a show that lasted for 1 hour on the weekends. A scant 2 years later, in 1984, the show was further reduced to a simple half-hour broadcast that was only shown on Saturday mornings. Keishon, who had committed nearly 3 decades to the show, and its aim of providing children with entertainment that is both pleasant and enlightening, was extremely upset by the continual changes in the schedule and the reductions in the number of programs. When his contract with Captain Kangaroo expired in December 1984, Keishon took the painful choice to leave the show. This decision came after Keishon had endured years of increasingly less backing from CBS. This decision was made only 9 months before the program would have celebrated its 30th anniversary, a significant milestone that he had intended to commemorate for a very long time. Bob Keeshan's legacy. In spite of the fact that his departure signified the end of an era, his legacy persisted on anyway. By 1987, repeats of Captain Kangaroo were being broadcast on public television stations across the country. This gave a new generation of youngsters the opportunity to get familiar with the program and the characters that they had come to love. The cultural significance of the program in the history of American television was reaffirmed as a result of these broadcasts, which served to extend the show's lifespan. In the year 1985, CBS broadcast a primetime network special titled Captain Kangaroo and Friends as a way to pay honor to the accomplishments that he has made. This special acted as a sort of goodbye-paying tribute to Keishon's nearly 3 decades of work by taking a look back at the cherished program and the remarkable array of characters that it featured. It provided viewers with the opportunity to relive their favorite moments and express their gratitude to the individual who had become a treasured fixture in their recollections of their youth. After the termination of Captain Kangaroo, Keishon continued to be involved in the media for children and in public service. In 1985, he was appointed as the presenter of CBS Story Break, an animated anthology series that brought well-known children's stories to life via the use of cartoon adaptations. Keishon made an appearance in live-action parts that served as the framework for each episode. These pieces introduced the featured narrative and encouraged youngsters to read the original book as well as other titles that are comparable. Reading and literacy were 2 principles that he had championed throughout his career, and his introductions, which were friendly and thoughtful, underscored the significance of literacy and the delights of reading. Keishon sought to help families and working parents in addition to his job in television. He was also involved in the field of family advocacy. The year 1987 saw the beginning of his partnership with Lamar Alexander, a former Republican governor of Tennessee, in the establishment of Corporate Family Solutions, a firm that offered employers on-site childcare services that were of high quality and cheap. Within the context of a workforce that is constantly evolving, the organization's goal was to fulfill the rising demand for trustworthy childcare alternatives. Keishon once again proved his dedication to the well-being of children and families by providing companies with the means to assist the family requirements of their employees. These are ideals that had always driven Keishon's professional life. Bob Keeshan, who was 76 years old at the time of his death, passed away on January 23, 2004, in Windsor, Vermont, not just as the kind Captain Kangaroo, but also as a devoted champion for the education, growth, and emotional well-being of children. He left behind a legacy that will endure for generations to come. Michael Derrick, Lori, Margaret, and Maeve Jean. His 3 children were the only ones to survive him after his passing. Anne, Jean, Lori Keishon, his cherished wife of 45 years, had passed away prior to his passing on February 25, 1996. Their close-knit family continued to uphold the profound principles of love, generosity, and service that Keishon had advocated for throughout his whole life. During the month of May in 2004, Britton Keishon, his grandson, made history by being the youngest person to ever climb the 7 summits, which are the highest mountains on each of the 7 continents. This accomplishment is considered to be one of the most amazing tributes to his memory. At the time that Britton reached the peak of Mount Everest, he was carrying with him a number of pictures that were of his grandpa who had passed away. As a final act of love and remembering, he buried one of those images at the summit, metaphorically placing the captain atop the world. This was an appropriate accolade for a man who had been such a steadfast and inspiring presence in the lives of so many people. A guy who had spent his whole life working to make the world a more loving, compassionate, and joyous place for children all over the world was put to rest in St. Joseph's Cemetery in Babylon, New York. This cemetery is a peaceful home for a man who had spent his entire life doing this. Bob Keeshan gave a generation something they'll never forget: kindness, patience, and imagination. But the world didn't always return that same care to him. His was a life of deep meaning, but also quiet sadness, and in the end, a reminder that even our childhood heroes carry burdens we rarely see. What's your most powerful memory of Captain Kangaroo or another children's TV figure who shaped your life? If this touched you, like the video, subscribe for more stories that deserve to be remembered, and share it to honor Bob Keeshan's lasting impact.